Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint a woman on a beach. We're going to be focusing on her hair and her shirt and kind of getting those folds in the clothing right. It'll be fairly simple, I think, and I'll be showing you start to finish how to do it. I've got my husband, Mark, with me.
Hey there, everybody.
He's been on chat for our live show, so if you have questions while I'm painting, you can ask those, and I'll try to answer them. Let's get started. Alrighty, so here's our reference photo. I really liked it. I did a couple things with it, just composition-wise. I moved down the horizon line. I felt like it was too close to halfway mark, so I just moved it down just a smidge. It doesn't really matter with her. I left her pretty much in the same spot. And then the other thing we're going to do is just maybe bump up the color just a little bit because she's a little bit pale in general. Probably leave her about the same as the photo, but I think I want the water to be just a little bit brighter. So you can do whatever you want with yours, though. I'll just kind of show you what I do as always, and you can kind of make it your own. I'm using a 9 by 12 inch canvas panel. This is a Belgian linen canvas board from Fredrix, so thank you to them for providing our canvas today. It's kind of a low nap canvas, so it's really nice for blending and things like that. I'm using a few brushes. I'll be using Princeton brushes today. This is the number 10 Bright, a number 6 Filbert for some of the background stuff. And then for the woman, I'm going to be using, if you have a rake brush for the hair, that'll be helpful. If you don't, you can make one. I'll kind of hopefully mention how to do that here later. But you could also use kind of some sort of stiff bristled brush like this. I'll probably be using a Willow's blender for the sand down here. And I've got a couple different sizes of it, 1/4 inch and 3/8 inch. And then I've got a couple angle brushes for most of the detail on the fabric and such. And then for some of the hair, some of the wispier hair, we're going to be using a 10-aught liner. So very fine liner. And then I got the fan brush just in case. I don't think I'm going to need it, but I thought, why not, right? Grab it just in case.
You gotta be like a Boy Scout. Be prepared.
It's exactly. They're just in case. So, and then you're going to want a ruler for your horizon line just to get it nice and straight. So I didn't quite go the third. We're just above the third and just below the halfway mark. So kind of right somewhere right there in the middle. And go ahead and do your line across with a water-soluble pencil. That'll give us a horizon line that's nice and straight. We want that with our water. And then there's mountains back here, so I'm going to just kind of lightly sketch some general mountains. One's a little higher than the other one, and then it kind of slips down this way. And she's taking up the second third of the canvas, so kind of right on our third mark there. Her shoulder sort of starts right there, and she comes in almost to the halfway mark with her hand right here. So however you want to place her, she's about 1 inch from the top of the canvas there, and then she's only about a finger's width away from the outside edge of the canvas. You could always bring her in a little bit more. Of course, you'd have to paint more of the side of her body, but I kind of stuck with the composition. So her head is right in here, and it's not a perfect round because this hair here is kind of blowing this way, so it's more straight up and down on this side, and then this side is a little bit more flowy out a little bit of an angle towards the shoulder. There's some hair. I'm not really going to be drawing a whole lot on the hair, but there is some movement here that I want to capture. So there's some hairs coming down from her top of her head. There's a couple of highlights right here and here that I want to catch. And then there's a section of hair that's kind of blowing up and over the top of all of this way. And then her shoulders come down at an angle. You can probably, if you did like an oval here and did a point, her shoulders are kind of coming in towards that point. They're not, it's not a perfect system there, but at least you get an idea of where to place them. You don't want to, to get them not too high or too low. And then they angle out this way a little bit, and it's kind of just this flowy shirt that we're seeing. And about 2 inches from the bottom or so, well, you can come up maybe a finger's width and start that leg. It's almost straight down from where it's kind of just at a slight angle from the top of the shoulder out, and this leg comes up this way and curves in. And then I think I would probably grid this if you are not completely familiar with painting and or drawing and don't want to have to draw it out by hand. You can the $5 level on my Patreon gets the reference photo. I think we might have probably posted this on Instagram too, possibly. So, or take a screenshot of the original photo. Anyhow, however you want to do it. I will have a traceable available for the $1 level though. So either way, you can get it. So there's an angle here, and then it comes a little bit up right there. So almost across, but not quite. And then in here, the shirt kind of makes almost like a triangle shape right here. It kind of comes in and then waves around and comes back out like that. The hand is laying on top. It curves out this way, comes back up. The thumb is facing us out here, and then her palm is curved in like that. And then her wrist has got another curve right there, and then her fingers are just right out this way, and they're pointing towards the center of the canvas. There, okay. And then her shirt is a wiggle right there, another one that kind of wiggles around here. There's a lot going on here and some folds and things that we'll get to. And then the bottom of her jeans is getting cut off by the sand right here. So, and then the bottom of the sand curves up and around this way. And on the ocean, there's a little bit of surf we're seeing right here, but mostly it's all kind of blue. There's a kind of right in the middle almost, there is sort of a color change shift that happens right in there. So, and then there's some folds in her fabric shirt that come down. Okay. So that's it. There's not a whole lot to drawing it. Her ear is actually right in here. We're seeing just the end of it, but if you don't want to have to do that, we can just cover it with hair. All right, let's go over our colors really quick. I've got carbon black, burnt umber, burnt sienna, yellow oxide. Spray these because it's getting dry. Cadmium yellow medium, phthalo green yellow shade, cobalt teal, phthalo blue green shade, ultramarine blue, quinacridone magenta, cadmium yellow or cadmium red medium, unbleached titanium, titanium white, and zinc white. And then this is acrylic glazing liquid. Boy, I couldn't say my words today.
You are going like 100 miles an hour.
I'm in art brain today.
You're
right
just
now.
like, let's go.
I'm going.
Let's go. So do you think her kids are just off camera there to the right? Mom.
She's trying
Mom,
to, yeah,
Mom,
she's just like ignoring them.
Or her husband. Honey.
She looks a little too relaxed for that.
Honey, where's the sunscreen? I told you it's in the bag. But I looked. Oh, sorry. That's our conversation.
Pretty much. Pretty much. Yeah. What was it in here that you were looking for the other day? It's like it's on the shelf. And you're like, no, I just looked there. He's like, I'm going to be mad if it's in there. And I'm like, yeah, it's right here, honey. Well, you didn't tell me it was behind that thing. I'm like, well, I told you exactly what shelf it was on. So, figured.
I can't reach.
Figured if I clued you in that much, you'd have been like, huh, there's something right here in the way. Maybe if I moved it, I'd find what she was telling me to get. Oh, well. I can't remember what it was now. It was pretty funny though. It was right there. Okay, so I've mixed up Ultramarine Blue right here, mostly Ultramarine Blue, a little bit of burnt umber, and then I decided it was a little too kind of gray. I wanted a little bit more of the yellow tones that I'm seeing in the sky, so I added just a tad of the yellow oxide. And we probably, this would have been a good one to tone our canvas with yellow oxide ahead of time, and then you wouldn't have to add that yellow oxide. It'd already be there. And then quite a lot of white here. So this are going to be our sky color. And I'm going to add a little bit more white here and just kind of brush it in as I go.
It was the packing tape.
Yep, that's what it was. Yep. Yep. That's exactly what it was. It was towards the back of the shelf and not on the front of the shelf, in your defense.
Not very defensible.
All right. And really, if you're drawing this on a on your canvas, I would probably wait to do it until after you get your sky done. But I always like to have it prepared ahead of time so I don't have to spend a lot of time. It takes me a while to draw things out, so I don't like to try to do them live. It just slows down the process. I like to have it already sketched out when we start the show. So I'm going to go a little bit lighter white right at the behind those mountains. That always just kind of helps push them back a little bit.
If you have it painted before the show starts, it'll go really fast.
Be like, hey guys, so this is what I painted.
Here's a blank canvas and cut scene, and voila.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Traceable.
Available.
Patreon.
Oh gosh. Well, this is definitely not a drawing channel. I do have a few that I've drawn. And if you're in my $10 group, I do draw with them because we take our time and we have, you know, I mean, I have some videos where I've spent 2 hours drawing one thing. So, you know, we do my $10 Facebook group for patrons when they get their own weekly video. And we usually do a painting that we work on all month long. And so I usually the first week I just draw, and if it's something really complicated, it usually takes me a while. I'm not a fast drawer.
So on your Patreon Facebook group, do you have a file there where people can post pictures they want to be?
Where they can post pictures?
Where they can post pictures or of things they would suggest for you to paint?
Not on Patreon, no. No,
Okay.
they can do that on my Facebook
Well,
group.
that's what I mean. In the normal Facebook group or the Patreon Facebook group?
Both.
In both?
Yeah, they
Okay.
can do it in both. Yeah, the only criteria with those is they have to be ones that are on a royalty-free site. I get a lot of people like showing me photographers' works, and I'm like, that's great. I would love to paint that, but I don't have permission. So, you know, it has to. They won't post it. My mods won't post onto the Facebook group. All the posts have to be approved in there, and so they don't post it unless it's you know, especially if it's from a photography site, it won't get posted. So those are just, you know, I can't do anything about them. It's great to see them. It's like, yeah, that's awesome. I would love to paint that, but
So there's no specific...
can't really do anything about it.
There's no specific folder. You just post it into the group.
There is a folder that's Paint My Photo that you can
Ooh.
find. It's in my...
Okay.
It's an older one, so they'll have to dig for it. It's probably in there somewhere, but I'm going to add a little bit more of the blue to this now, the ultramarine blue, and I'm going to use that on the mountain. This may be a little bit too bright.
So if everybody hasn't caught on yet, I don't usually paint so I don't know where these folders are. Just because I'm her husband doesn't mean I know where stuff is. We just got done explaining that.
Yeah. Marks, I don't know. We were just talking about that, how we remember different things differently. Okay, so I'm trying to get that. That looks a little weird to me. I think I'm going to bring it up a little bit over here. There we go. I'm not going to say what it looked like. It didn't look right. Okay. I'm just going to leave it at that.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, there we go. I think that's good. All right, now for the water, I'm going to use Phthalo Blue and Burnt Sienna. And I'm going to mix in a little bit of that sky color too. So I'm going to add a little bit of that Ultramarine Blue right at the horizon line there. And if you want to put your, let that mountain dry and put up your ruler there, that's a good way. Or you can tape it off, however you want to do it. If you don't put too much paint on your brush and you kind of use that edge this way, that flat edge gives you a good head start on keeping your line straight. And you can kind of go down the line and then sort of smooth out underneath it. That's how I like to do it. If you go this way, you have a tendency to wiggle back and forth, but if you go this way, that flat edge is already kind of giving you a nice straight line to work with, so less chance of getting crooked. Okay. I definitely think I'm going to tone down this mountain's way too dark. So we'll put this on and we'll change up some of the colors here in a minute. I'm going to grab some of the teal, Cobalt teal. I stopped about halfway here and I'm just going to add some of that Cobalt teal in, a little bit of white. It gets lighter and it gets kind of more greenish. And I'm just kind of brushing it side to side, keeping my brush strokes horizontal, so if I get any little streaks in the water like this, it'll kind of look like waves. We're gonna do a couple layers of this, so this doesn't have to be our final coat here. And then towards the front here, I'm going to use this Unbleached Titanium and add my green to that. And that water right close to the shoreline is picking up the sand color underneath. So we're seeing a lot of that. It turns really green. Right up here.
Yes?
Sorry. I'm still not over my cold, obviously, so just having to deal with froggy throat today. A little bit more. Okay. And then my sand up here, I'm going to grab more of this unbleached titanium and just tap that in right here. And we're going to add, darken it up and add other colors to it, but there we go. That'll work. Okay. Yeah, definitely want to work on that. That's not quite what I want. So that's dry enough. We can go in for our second coat on here. And I think what I'm going to do is just put a coat on the entire thing here. It'll tone down both. It'll tone down this and make it a little bit closer to the horizon color. So, and I'm going to use a little bit of that phthalo blue in the sky. So I'm going to grab some of these colors that we were using down here. Mix that with my ultramarine blue. That unbleached titanium with the phthalo blue there. A little bit of brown. A lot of white. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to use a glazing liquid. And we'll just glaze this whole thing.
We got a question.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to know, is gesso a good alternative to white paint?
I don't use it, no. Gesso's a sealer. It's not really paint, so it's got a different kind of binder, I think. It's not really... I know there's some artists that use it like white, and it does dry a little bit last a little bit longer, but it also is intended to be an undercoat, so it's got like a grittiness that if you have it as a top coat, it doesn't, I don't know, it's it's not paint. So it's intended to give
Toothy.
Yeah, make your paint more toothy. Exactly. Yeah.
Sorry.
So it's not really designed to be a finished coat, you know, top coat.
So just as you know, we say no.
I say no. I mean, there's not really famous artists that I watch on PBS that uses it all the time, but I'm not going to name him, but and his looks fine, so I mean, I'm sure they're fine. It's just maybe maybe if you seal it right, it'll be fine, but it does make your paints last longer. So I'm using this through the whole thing. I'm just toning this whole thing with this will kind of homogenize the whole background and make it all, you can see how it kind of just blended it all together, make it look all foggy kind of. And I don't mind this lighter area up in here. It looks almost like clouds to me, so I'm going to leave it. I don't think I'm going to do anything with that. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm not going to go over my sand with this. I think we'll stop right there. And we'll see. This may be a little too, because now I'm seeing the reference photo. I kind of like the yellowish tone in the sky a little bit better, so I may go back over it with a little bit of yellow. But we'll see. All right, let's start filling in her clothing, her skin tone, get some of that going. So to create her skin tone, I'm going to use yellow oxide, a little bit of cadmium red medium, a little bit of ultramarine blue. Those three together will make a kind of a neutral skin tone. And depending on how much, if you add more yellow, you'll get, actually I might want to use cadmium yellow. I meant to use cadmium yellow, sorry. A little bit of cadmium yellow there. So it's going to look kind of weird at first. What you'll do is just kind of play with the proportions. So if it looks too, yellow, you add a little bit of blue to tone it down. If it looks too red, you know, you can add a little yellow, a little bit of blue, and just kind of keep playing with your proportions of the colors until you get a skin tone that you like. There we go, we're getting closer. And she's got some tan, so I'm going to leave a little bit of brownness into the skin tone. Let's see what she looks like. That's pretty close. That's a pretty good color. And then we'll use white to, yeah, that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. I can't tell you the exact combination. It's just a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Try it. Adding white will help a lot because then you'll be able to kind of see what the undertones are, and So I would do like I did here and just kind of create a little, start out with one tone and kind of work it into another and just kind of play with it until you find a color that you like. Kind of keep moving on down the line, and so that you can go back to this color later if you want to try it, for a shadow or something like that. You'll have several different options to pull from. Put that down. Trying to get it on smoothly. And I'm coming up under the hair, and I'm right here where the hairline is. I'm going to try to kind of brush it out. It's actually not going to be up there. That's going to be hair, obviously. So I'm going to get some hair and put that in right there. You might actually have a little bit of that blue sky showing right there too. Let's go ahead and grab that brown, and we'll kind of do sort of a general outline. I don't want anything too hard to cover right now, so I'm going to do kind of a light color. What you doing, hun?
Side camming.
Ah.
What you doing?
I don't know. I can just hear you fussing around over there.
Okay, I'll stop breathing.
Distracting. Thanks. Appreciate it. Okay, there we go. We're going to go a lot darker with our darker areas, but I don't want to go too dark too soon. I want to have that, but I'm pretty happy with the skin tone. So, actually, I need a smaller round. I didn't think about the fingers. I'm going to need a number 1 round for those fingers. And then I'm going to use a little bit of burnt umber and ultramarine blue with that skin tone for my shadow. And I'm going to go in between the fingers with that color and try to kind of blend it up a little bit into those fingers while that's wet. And the back side of the hand. Going to be this darker color. Get a little bit of that darker color. So right about there, and then we're going to switch to the much brighter color for the top of the palm. Inside the fingers. The dark crease right here in that wrist. I need to bring that ocean color up right there. I didn't cover it up enough. Burnt sienna, a bit of teal, white. Okay. It's not looking a whole lot like a whole lot right now. It'll take a couple coats to start to come around, so just kind of know that going in. Okay. And then let's and honestly, if you want to leave her hand out, you could have her arm bent in here and just have the knee coming out. So if this stresses you out, you're like, I don't really want to paint her hand, then just paint the part of the leg and just, have the elbow there turned in. You really wouldn't have to do anything different. I don't think, with the angle of the shirt even. You could just leave that part out. It would just look like her elbow was bent in towards her body. So, all right, and then I'm going to use some of this darker. Get some of the using a little bit of burnt umber just to add a little bit more depth to the color. Sounds so dark, so quiet in here when that air's not on. You realize how much undertone it causes. Okay. More of the ultramarine blue, a little bit of the burnt sienna. Going right up underneath that hand there. there's kind of a light part of, there's a shadow right here, and then the light part of the thigh on this side. And I'm going to use some of this color just to kind of blend these two together. And her thigh looks really dark, but if you look at the reference photo, it is pretty darn dark in that reference photo. So we're just painting what we're seeing here. I'm going to go in with a little bit of white with this color. And just kind of right in here, add a little bit lighter tone.
We got a question. They would like to know that if they were to paint this without the mountains, should they raise the horizon line up higher?
No, I wouldn't. I don't think so. I think it's always good to have the horizon line on a third if you can, or close to the kind of golden ratio. I just bought myself a caliper for times like this when I'm not exactly sure where to put the horizon line. It just seemed a little high. I knew I didn't want it right at the halfway mark. So I bought this little, I'll show you here in a minute. This little doohickey here. It stretches it out. And it'll tell you where kind of the perfect angle. And it's like 1 to 1.16 something or other. I can't remember the fraction, but there's a fraction this is 1 and then this is 0.67 or something like that. Yeah, so. No, it's 0.1. I don't know. I can't remember. But I scratched it up there. But that's what I used to come up with that line there.
So if the hole is 1 from the top,
the golden ratio, it'll tell you.
Right, from the top to the middle would be 0.67.
0.67.
And from the middle to the bottom would be 0.33. So 0.67 plus 0.33 is 1.
Okay. What he said.
Or if you're playing along at home, about 4 fingers from the bottom to the middle, and about 7 fingers.
Oh, about 5.
About 5? Okay.
It's 5 together and 5 spread.
Okay. Using Angela math.
Right. Okay. I'm going to take off all of this blue here.
All right, now everybody wants to know where they can get the tool.
It's on Amazon. That's where I got mine. I'll put it in my Amazon shop. Links down in the description there. I don't think I added it yet, but I will. I wanted to get it and use it first, see if it worked. But it's good for the it's the widest it goes is 12 inches, so it's good for these 9x12s that I use.
And what's it called?
Golden ratio caliper, I think. Something like that. Not sure. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit of blue, yellow, and let's use Zinc White because it's transparent. A little bit more white. I want to tone it down just add just a little hint of yellow to my sky up here. You may not have to do this. If you add a little bit more yellow to your sky or use that yellow oxide underneath, it'll already have this kind of glow underneath. And then you won't have to do this, but yeah, okay. I like that a little bit better. It's a little closer to that golden color I'm seeing. I'm just going to paint right over the top of her head. That'll work. We're just glazing here. It's actually lifting off a little bit of my color there. Okay. Go a little bit more white here. Got a little bit more blue. A little bit of this yellow. A little bit more of the white. And the reason it's doing that is when I put that blue on that part of the mountain, I had too much water in my paint. And that's why it's lifting like that. You can see the parts that aren't lifting. It's lifting because it didn't bind to the canvas right there. So I'm just going back in with thicker paint here, making it, covering it. The dogs are going crazy for something out there. Okay. Actually, it doesn't look too bad, so I think I'm just going to leave it. I'm going over my horizon line there too, to kind of soften it up a little bit. All right, I like that better. It's got a little bit more of the yellow tones. I think she'll stand out a little bit more too. I could go in with some white. So to avoid that, when you use the water, you just add a little bit of your glazing liquid and that'll make sure that it sticks really well. So. Adding a little bit of white in here. Lighten it up a little. Go right over the top of that mountain horizon line. Look at how much of that is coming off. It's crazy. We'll just have to, it looks like a snow-capped mountain now. Isn't that funny? It really does. Okay, so on there with some darker. We're just going to have to let it set because it's just not going to stick right now. We'll just let it sit and we'll come back to it. All right. Let's work on the ocean some. I'm going to grab my Filbert here. And some of the Phthalo Blue, Teal, and some burnt Sienna. Spray my paints down. And then I can add a little tiny bit of the Ultramarine Blue here. That'll make it a little bit closer to our sky color. And then we'll add white and see what it looks like. Yeah, that's good. Kind of a deep green color. And then I want a little bit more of a blue. So I'm going to use a little bit of the burnt, or the Ultramarine Blue and the Phthalo Blue. Pour some of this back in here. Get some white and some glazing liquid. So I don't want it too much darker than what's already there, but I'm just going to kind of go along that horizon line here and add some little swishes of side to side, little motion in the water. Keep them really small in the background here. They should be very small. You shouldn't be able to really see any individual waves much. Just tiny little lines. And then as we get closer, we'll see them a little bit bigger, but still keep them fairly small. There we go. That mountain's cracking me up. I cannot believe it did that. It's been a long time since I've done that. It just was... Well, and it wouldn't have done that if I had not messed with it and gone over, glazed over it. It would have been fine, but since I messed with it, it didn't like it.
So are you going to have the hair darker at the end?
Yeah, make
okay.
it darker.
All right.
When I start putting some details. Getting some green here and my Unbleached Titanium. Use some of that in the water. It's a pretty color. Yeah, so I can go around the hand here now a little more carefully. Her fingers look really fat for some reason. I don't know why. I'll try to thin those out a little bit. Okay. Very nice. All right, let's get some of the Unbleached Titanium. Add that back up in the water here. This second coat will be pretty much the last. We don't need much more than this. There's not a whole lot of detail in our water here, so it's kind of nice. We can sort of just do this. That is just not drying at all. I may have to have you dry it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to take off. I don't know. Is it on? I'm just going to pull off everything that I can get off, and that way it'll dry faster, and I can get in there with the second coat. Okay. I may just redo that whole sky. I don't like it. Yeah. I'm gonna redo it, the whole thing, I think. All right, so down here in the waves, I'm gonna get a little bit of white, add that to that color I was just using, and go side to side tunnel with it. And I'm using that tip of the brush to kind of just draw a little bit. And there's some shadow in the waves in here, so I'm going to draw that in. Kind of where the waves are hitting the rocks. A little bit of shadow right there. Wipe that off, get a little bit more of that white. Come back over, get blend that out. A little bit more white. There's not a whole lot of, there's really not any waves. It's just kind of these like kind of light lapping waves, so I'm not doing a whole lot of detail here. There we go. That's good enough. We can add a little bit of this white up in here. Some places give some of our water a little bit of light hitting it. Keep these kind of sideways, side to side. There we go. Okay, now I want to use my stippler here. I'm going to grab some yellow oxide and some of this burnt umber here. I'm going to get some black too. Just a little bit of black. And I'm just letting some of this white from some of these lighter colors here affect it, so it's not quite so dark. Shadow right there by her body. And then grabbing some of the white and the yellow oxide. And might be actually better to use a sponge, but I don't have one handy right here, so I'm just going to use this brush. But if you have a sponge, you could probably use that instead. Just put a little texture in our sand there. Grabbing some white and some unbleached titanium and going back over. Just tapping. There we go. Okay. I'm sorry. All right. That's still not dry. Let's work on her skin tone here. Need to Just using a glass palette here, it just makes it easier to clear off my previous layers. All right. The mountain is cracking me up. It's like taunting me. It's like the easiest part of the whole painting. I messed it up. It's funny. All right, let's work on her skin tone a little bit more. Again, get a little bit of those yellows. Get a little bit of the ultramarine blue. And some of that cadmium red. I got a little too red, you can see, so. And I add a little bit more of the yellow. Make it more orange, and then add a little bit of that blue. See how that looks with some white. Changes a lot when you hit white. You hit it with white. It's pretty good. Give our skin a second coat here. And then on some parts of her, like her shoulder and things, there's more light, so I'm going to go ahead and tap in now that I've got, kind of just did a quick base coat there. I'm going to tap in some highlights with this lighter tone along her shoulder here. Is she outside? Is that from outside, or is she in here? She's like, I can hear you. Let me in. You're doing the show without me. It's our cat. She thinks she's an integral part of the whole process. She never used to be in here. Our dog Scooter used to be in here, and then when he passed last year, she took up the gauntlet. So she hangs out in here now. She's like, at least one animal needs to be supervising at all times. It's so funny. Okay, so I did a little bit darker right there on that shoulder, you can see. And then here the letter, this shoulder blade kind of hitting some light here. And then there's another darker patch kind of in between the shoulder blades right here. Just putting a little color on and then just sort of tapping out those edges to blend it in. Just a little subtle color is really making a impacting it, so it doesn't have to be real obvious. Okay, a little bit more lighter color right along up in here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. think I made my palm too big. I think that's what happened here. My fingers. Come down a little bit more. Alright, and I'm going to use some of this. Now I want to be sure that I use a little bit of glazing liquid if I'm thinning my paints out here, because I don't want to have an issue like I did with my mountain. So adding some highlight color to this leg here. Okay. Again, a little bit of burnt umber. I'm going to use it under here where I want that shadow to go. And I pretty much just loaded it kind of on the top corner of that angle brush so I could get it down in there, and then I'm just going to sort of pull out those edges, smooth it out a little bit right there. And I think it needs to be a little bit more blue, but I'll let that set. We got a little bit of blue, this one down here lower. Do the same thing under here. A little glazing liquid to make sure it sticks. I'm just thinning out a little bit of that darker color and glazing on a shadow right on that bottom edge of her leg right there. There we go. And then right in here. Okay. Now let's use a little bit of this color right up underneath where her shirt is going to be. I'm going to just tap along that line there, and that'll add a shadow right there where that shirt's tucked down in. There's a little shadow right there.
I think she's just resting after walking through that huge field of flowers.
I know, it does look like the same girl, doesn't it? It sure does look like her. Maybe it's the same model.
She's resting until she swims across the water to the snow-capped mountains.
What?
She's resting before she swims across the water to the snow-capped mountains.
Right, right. Okay, I'm gonna bring her fingertips in a little bit. Adding a little bit of shadow to the back of the thumb there. To the inside lines of fingers. Go with a little bit more yellow here. Okay. A little bit of burnt umber and ultramarine blue for the shadow color. Starting to shadow underneath that forearm a little bit. And that shadow on the leg, that needs to be much more brightly highlighted. I don't know if it's going to be obvious enough with this composition. I may just make that leg kind of have a softer highlight right there because it looks a little weird to me. Okay, and then this fingers a little bit more pink. Get a little bit more of the red, white. Round out tips of these fingers. And then round out that thumb right there a little bit, and then the palm that's coming up right there. That nail of the thumb. It's such a small little area, it's kind of hard to get that perspective right. And her forearm's coming in a way you're not seeing it cleanly from the angle. You're seeing kind of part of the forearm and the hand at the same time. So it's not looking like a regular palm like that. It's kind of got some, I can't get my arm in the right position, but you're seeing a lot of the forearm in the way of that palm. So it's kind of making it look like a big old fat palm right here. There's a subtle crease right here that I need to get right for it to crease that palm just right. So it's going to be, there's a nook right here where that angle comes down right here, and then there's a line that curves around like right in here somewhere. some white. I'm going to put it right here and right along that palm. I'm making the thumb burger bigger and bigger the more I mess with it. I think I got that angle right now. It's looking more like a palm than a sausage. Okay, I'm gonna stop for now. Add a little more highlight on this shoulder up here. Okay, let's put a second coat on here. Before I need to do it, before I do the hair. So I'm gonna add a little bit more of this color up into the sky because I feel like it's I don't like the contrast here. I want a little bit more of that same color. So sorry. So I'm mixing up that same color that I used down here, but then adding a little bit of that ultramarine blue to it. So it's got a little bit more of that tone. We'll see. Get a little bit more of that phthalo blue and just go along that horizon line a little bit with it. Okay, much better. I'm going to use the same color in the sky here, adding more white to it. Add that glazing liquid in there so it doesn't unbind. Spent like 3 times longer on that sky than I had intended to, but It's better now. Okay, I'm happy with it. And our mountain doesn't look like it's snowy anymore. So, win-win. Okay, yeah, it's spring. Suddenly it's spring. All right, so let me grab my angle brush here. Get some white with that unbleached titanium here. I'm gonna tap in some rocks on my sand. I'm gonna do the same thing with my burnt umber. Add some white. Kind of come up underneath some of those. Tap in little pebbles. And we can go in with the unbleached titanium and actually highlight some of those. Skip me. Highlight some of those dark pebbles. There's not that many. When we did the boat, you could do a whole like seascape with that boat and this girl. It'd be kind of cool. You could have her off to the side with the boat down here in the water. All right, so let's work on her. I think I'm fairly happy with that. I don't know what happened to that thumb there. I think I touched it. Let me see if I can get it filled back in there. I think I touched it when I did the ocean, maybe? I'm not sure. Try to fill in with some of that teal color right there. And really, if you get these values close enough in the ocean and the hand there, you can kind of disappear that edge a little bit. It'll soften the whole look of it, and you won't have to be as precise with your painting. Okay. So I think I'm gonna use the bigger one here, and I'm going to use this color. We're going to use the skin tone, surprisingly enough, because it's kind of a see-through thin shirt, and you're seeing a little bit of that skin tone through over here. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in some of our shadow areas, just as kind of an undertone. Just along the back of the shirt, not really much down here. Down here it's kind of a little bit more yellow, so I'm going to get some of the yellow color. And then get that white, and I'm going to have to really come in with some thick paint right in here to cover up that edge that has all that blue from our ocean. So it's going to take a couple coats to get it probably covered. So do that there. Okay, and then over here, let's pink. I have quite a bit of area that is gray, so I'm going to use Ultramarine Blue and Burnt Umber here. Create some grays for down in here in our shirt. And that's probably too dark, so I'm going to grab some white and just kind of tap that out. Just kind of mapping out some of the major shapes here. And then we'll work on kind of blending some of these together, but right now I'm just kind of trying to get some of my dark areas mapped in, and then we'll kind of work on making them a little bit more subtle. Use this gray color along here. In our creases. And then use mostly white here. A little bit of that gray to kind of start filling in some of the body of the shirt. So using that secondary color now next to it, kind of that lighter gray, I'm kind of just going on either side of those darker areas here and trying to fill in some of these spaces. In our shirt, these areas are going to be highlighted in between the dark areas, and they'll be just kind of a fade, a little dark to light, to create that rolling texture and look. So shirt color on there for now.
Which brush are you using right now?
3/8 inch angle. Edge there. Okay. See, we're pretty close on the shirt already. We got our values fairly close on the first try, so we won't have to go do a huge amount of adjusting. I'm going to add a little bit of glazing liquid here and just add a little bit of that darker shadow in some places. I need to let that dry because it's getting sticky. Yeah, we'll just let it dry. I don't want to mess with it while it's wet. Try to blend out those edges so they're soft. Get some of that kind of grayed color over down here. This area's in shadow. And it's even darker down here. I'm just going to kind of go along that fold there. Okay. And then her jeans down here, I'll just go ahead and do burnt umber, quinacridone, or I'm sorry, burnt umber and ultramarine with a little bit more on the blue side. Just still that gray, but just mostly blue. Do that down here. I don't know how it's turning out. I guess I'm getting some of that yellow in there. It's looking a little bit green. That's all right. And this color and that sand color need to be almost the same value right here where they meet. So I'm going to just use a little bit of this with my glazing liquid and just put it on the sand right here. Add it to that shadow color. And blend them together. Okay. Bring that shadow out. Okay. All right. Let's work on her hair. I feel like this would have been an opportunity to do some clouds too, but I'm not going to, but you could if you wanted to. I think it would look good, probably. I'm going to use liquid carbon black, fluid black, and some fluid burnt umber This is burnt umber light. But if you don't have these colors, just go ahead and use your colors. Just add glazing liquid to them to thin them out. These are already thinned, so it makes it a little bit faster to work with. And I'm going to start at the top here and start adding and I've got my rake brush now. And it's really important to use a thinner paint with these brushes. They just don't work with thick paints. So, and I'm looking at where I've got the darkest colors, and I'm going to try to put those in first. I've got a little bit of black mixed in with my color here. And I'm pretty happy, I think, with her shoulders. So I don't think I'm planning on doing anything else. So I'm going to come down and do some sweeping brush strokes with this. Go over the top of that edge so you can see the individual hairs kind of wisping over that blue there along that edge. Okay. Okay. Trying to keep my brush strokes really light, barely touching this down. If you press down too hard, you're going to get thicker lines. You don't want that. Okay, so I'm pretty good with that right there. Let's stop for now. Get some white, and I'm going to add a little bit of the yellow oxide to it, and a little bit of my brown. This will be my highlight color. And I really need probably a third color in here. It's looking pretty. So let's just do some brown with just a little bit of this lighter color, not any black. I'll try to get some of that in there. Now, grab some of that lighter color. I find with brunette, it's good to have a little bit of golden tones in there with your highlights, and then what we can do is we can glaze back over if it looks too blonde, but it looks really pretty underneath the brown highlights. So I'm using quite a lot of the gold color here. It's gonna go whoosh like that. Like a And they get all tangled up, so it doesn't have to be one continuous thing. We're doing several layers, so we can do another layer here with the dark and do some that are kind of crisscrossing what we've done underneath. Getting some of that medium brown here. Add a little bit of my light burnt umber. Coming over this far. And it helps if your canvas is not super textured to these softer or lower textured canvases that I'm using will help you get finer hairs with this rake brush. The textured brushes will kind of catch on the canvas a little bit, or the textured canvases, I mean, will catch on these brushes a little bit and won't look as fine. You'll get a little, it still works, but it's a little bit more. Your lines will be a little thicker, maybe. Okay. Let's get a little bit of this yellow. Do some really bright highlights on a few of these. And barely touching. I really want to bring these ones out. And these will definitely have to be glazed because they're too bright, obviously. But there we go. this top edge here and just kind of put some few little very, very wispy ones coming up along that top edge there. Doing, hon? Okay, so put out some glazing liquid over here. Doing, hon? All right. Let's let that dry and we'll work on our shirt a little bit more. Short pants. Quinacridone, or I'm sorry, I keep saying quinacridone. Burnt over and ultramarine blue here. I'm zoomed in too far there. You okay, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Been awfully quiet.
Just a lot of food talk.
Mm.
We're currently on chocolate.
We're all hungry today. What about chocolate?
Oh, just a general discussion on chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
It's Dave's fault.
Oh. I'm gonna get a little bit of white here with my gray. Just put it in her little pocket there. It doesn't really matter all that much. Her pants are not the focal point, but every little bit helps. Let's add some water. I'm gonna use this gray in the shirt and bring it over here. Grab some of my white. And there's a lot of the yellow in this shirt, so I'm gonna use a little bit of this Unbleached Titanium too in it. So I've got white, a little bit of gray, and a little bit of the Unbleached Titanium here. And I'm gonna start kind of defining this shirt a little bit. And we've got these darker areas here, so we can kind of work around them a little bit. And then every now and then where I want a little bit of that darker color, I'm just going to grab it on the tip of the brush here and draw it in. Okay. And I'm going to just be working kind of wet into wet and just blending these colors in as I go. Mostly white. just a few of these areas where I want a little bit more of that bright here. Just using the tip, just drawing it in. Okay, and then right here there's a bright white coming out of that curve there and connecting up all the way up to here. Get that bright white right there. Okay, and a little bit more right here. And right there. We're just popping those parts of the shirt forward. And then I can get that shadow color and come back in with that where I need more of my shadow. And I'm gonna outline the outside of that shirt a little bit. And then right where this comes in, there's like a gray. So it's not a hard shadow right there, it's just kind of a soft curve. I'm going to grab a little bit of that flesh tone if I have some over here, or just mix them up. Use it with that gray for right in here. This shadow has a little bit of that reddish color in it from our see-through. And there's some of it down here too, so I'm going to add it in here as well. And grab my white. Kind of blend out around it. I'm going to use this along up in here and kind of do these little creases that we've got at the top of the shirt and just dab it along that crease there. Yeah, this one is turning out to be a little more complicated than I thought it was going to be. That was the way, right? The ones that I'm like, yeah, that's going to be super simple. Like, a little bit more work than I was intending. But it'll be worth it. All right, now grabbing that white and hitting those highlight areas. I'm just going to tap along that with the white as well. I feel like her shoulder got a little bit light right there, so I'm going to use a little bit of the flesh tone on it. I really don't want to be messing with this right now because it's got the hair in the way, so you want to have to try to go around that hair. Okay, I'm going to stop and just leave it. I'm going to get some of the white and some of this gray in it and do my little lines in my shirt down here. I'm just going to use the tip of it to kind of sort of indicate some of these pleats in the fabric. Grabbing some of that dark. And grabbing some white now and just kind of blend out, do a second coat here on this and blend out any harsh edges I'm seeing. And then I'm going to use that bright white right here. There's a little highlight on the fabric. And a little bit right there. And then just kind of brush out those outside edges.
Somebody wants to know what brush you had used for doing all the hair.
It's the 1/4" Filbert Grainier from Princeton Select. Okay.
A beginning painter would like to know how they could get past the fear of ruining a canvas when starting to paint.
You know, I think that the you could practice on paper. I have paper that I use sometimes when I want to try out something new. It's a palette. Let me show you this. It's in my Amazon store, but it's the Strathmore Mixed Media Visual Journal paper. Now, you do have to add more water to it when you use it, but it, you know, it'll help give you some confidence. You practice on that, and then go to canvas, you know, try out something, do your studies, you know, smaller. A lot of artists will do that. A lot of artists will create a first painting just to kind of try out some ideas on a smaller, either a smaller canvas or like on paper like that, and then they'll do the, you know, the main. So I don't think that that's necessarily bad. You know, I mean, that's kind of a normal thing. It just means you're kind of being cautious, but I wouldn't let it stop you from painting, you know, that. But I mean, it's not a, you know, obviously when you see the things that we've done on this one today, it's, you know, there's always a chance of kind of messing up. But the nice thing about acrylics that I like is that, you know, that they're pretty forgiving as far as you can layer them really easily. So if you do make a mistake, you can just know that, you know, it can be covered, and that gives you a little bit more freedom of expression, I think. Kind of knowing that anything you do mess up, you can always paint over. You can even gesso over a canvas. But a lot of times that I find beginners give up right in kind of the ugly stage, I call it, because a painting will go through a stage where it just looks really bad, especially acrylics when you're layering to get, you know, really good blends and things. And so, you know, we could have given up a couple of steps ago when we first put our first few layers on because she didn't look all that hot, and not realize that, you know, it just needed a few more touches to get it looking better. And I think with beginners, we don't we haven't done enough paintings to realize that that's normal, you know. So and your brain kind of will fight you on it too, you know, when you're working and trying for realism. A lot of times your preconceived notions of what things are supposed to look like, that your brain always, you know, has stored all these images of what, you know, a tree looks like, and what an arm looks like, and what, you know, hair is supposed to look like. And of course they were probably stored when you were about 5 years old, so they're not accurate representations. It's just kind of like anything that gets in that general vicinity, your brain will kind of register as, okay, that's an arm. Well, when you're drawing or you're, you know, painting, it kind of fights that because your brain is telling you that's not what an arm looks like. An arm is not that shape, even though that's what you're seeing and you're, putting on the canvas. So if you kind of recognize that too, that'll help some, and just kind of know that that's part of the process. Your brain will kind of fight you the whole way when you're trying to create something realistic looking a lot of times. And it won't be until the very end steps that when it all comes together and looks right, that your brain will go, oh, okay, yeah, that looks right. But it doesn't trust you at all. Like, your left brain is not trusting what the right brain is doing when you're creating art. So you kind of, if you know that and just kind of know, okay, it's normal for this not to look right until maybe the last two, steps in your painting, or maybe the last couple brush strokes, and then it'll start to look right. So we just kind of have to keep on working until it does look right, and not give up when it's in that ugly stage. Not give up when our brain kind of tries to tell us that you're not doing it right, and this is all wrong, and which will happen every single painting. It still happens to me. It doesn't matter how long I've been painting. I still have those moments where I'm like, this can't be right. And then, I kind of look at my reference and go, no, I think we're on the right track here, So, and just keep on going until you get it right, That's why some of these paintings that I think are going to take a half an hour take, 2 hours. It's really hard to judge sometimes how long art's going to take, what it's going to take to get it to look good. But I know if I keep on messing with it for long enough, it'll get there. So, and I would say, being a beginner, I would join my Thankful Art group. If you're doing my tutorials, join that group and post your work, even your work in progress, and see, get as much advice as you can on it. People in there are, the number one rule is be kind. So, they're in there to help. They're not in there to criticize. The people are really nice, and a lot of them have either done that same tutorial and will show you theirs and kind of tell you how they got through some of the problems with it or whatever, or, they'll, anyhow, I don't know. That was a really long explanation, but I hate for anybody not to, that's pretty normal, feeling to be afraid. So if you kind of know that going into, and know, that you got people kind of rooting for you behind the scenes, it kind of makes it a little bit more fun, a little bit easier to be brave. And it's only paint at the end of the day. You can paint over it, if you mess it up. A lot of times the solution is not that hard, to fix. Okay, I think we're good. I'm liking that. So let's put some glazing on our hair and we'll be just about done. I'm going to grab that glazing liquid and some of the burnt umber. If you have transparent burnt umber, that'll even be better. I do, but I'm not pulling it out. They have a color that's called transparent burnt umber. It just gives it a little softer look. Takes a few more coats to get it worked in there, but okay. So, and now you can see how it's just toning down those highlights. It's leaving them there, but it's toning them down. That glaze will color it, just tints your hair, and the more I use, the more paint I use, the darker the glaze will be. There we go. And I can even use a little bit of black and glaze some dark areas back in here if I need to. Create some depth. use a little bit of this burnt umber glaze. On the leg here. Cast that shadow under the hand. Go along that t-shirt if I need to, if I covered up a lot of that shadow right there. Okay, I'm going to sign it. Alrighty. This is Sakura pigment. I get asked that all the time. It's in my Amazon store, in like a 3-pack. They're not very expensive. They're water soluble. Work great. Not a sponsor. I just like them. So that's it. What? Super chat. Oh my gosh. Awesome.
We had one super chat.
Great.
Towards the beginning of the show. It was from, I hope I say the name correct, Jonah, Jona. There was no special message, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonah. Very sweet.
Yes. And sorry I didn't do the disco lights. I was cut off guard by Angela's saying that she was done. Right. Oh, wait a minute. She's not done. Oh, silly me. Did we say we were done? No.
I just saw a spot on there.
Here, we'll fade out, and then we'll come back, and you'll still be painting.
You'll still be painting? No.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to stop.
Sure. I'm going to go do something real quick. Come back.
Come back. She'll still be painting.
She'll still be painting.
All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed bringing it to you today and getting to spend our Saturday with you again. So thanks for stopping by, watching, and chatting with us and all that good stuff. If you want the traceable for this, it'll be available on patreon.com/AngelaFineArt. And yeah, we'll have that up probably tomorrow.
And bonus videos.
And all of the bonus videos are available.
Your rock orchid is way over there.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's rocking.
It is pretty cool. You should get it.
I'll get it.
All right, get it. So our $10 group just started on this. I'll show you what we started on. It's a desert thunderstorm, so it's going to have some cactus in here and some lightning coming down. We got pretty far on it in our first thing. So they do, like I said earlier, we do a special project with them all month long. So we've got one more week to finish that one. And then this is the one for the bonus video. This is the $5 level or $10 level, and $5 and up. So, and we do a painting every month with them that's just for the $5 level. And so there's several now, over, I would say over 15 probably, maybe more, bonus videos that are not on public, that are just for the $5 level. And then the $10 level gets all of those, plus they have another probably 15 or so at least that are just for them. So anyhow, I have, if you go to my Patreon page, you can see some of the public posts show some of the previous bonus videos and things, and you can sign up there if you're interested. So if you're interested in more in-depth paintings, they're more kind of advanced type paintings. So
and
thankfulart.com is our website. We can sign up for the newsletter. Shows all we do once a week. We could do a newsletter, kind of fun stuff. Do a community post and book and book and music recommendations. There's kind of all kinds of different stuff that we don't do anywhere else. So it's fun. And you can kind of keep up with everything we're doing everywhere. It's kind of a one-stop shop for everything. Plus, you can search for traceables there on my traceable page.
Yeah. And then down below the video, of course, is a list of all the paints and supplies and links to the brush guys.
Yes.
And social media.
Right.
All that stuff.
I did her hair too long right here, but oh well.
We'll give her a haircut.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Okay. She's just got like one really long hair right here coming out of nowhere. I got a little happy with the hair. I should have. Well, it's okay. I'm not going to mess with it now, but just noticed it. Okay. I'm done. We'll see you on, what day is it? Tuesday. I think we're doing trees on a roadside. So hopefully that won't take too long. We'll see. Yeah, hopefully. I think I'm going to start out with the color on the canvas, like probably some yellow on the canvas to start. So
the fall.
Yes, we're starting our fall series. So we'll start doing our fall paintings, even though it's still 90 degrees here. We're going to be wishful thinking here. So, yeah. And then next Saturday, we're going to have another ocean painting, and then we'll probably be pretty much all fall stuff after that. So, all right, guys, we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us. Bye.